Hello friends, in this video we'll see what is JSON, or some people call JSON depending on the location where the people are. So JSON is a data format or a record format which is a industry standard where we hold a record and pass it among the systems. Okay, and it is heavily used in various frameworks. Any language you take, Java, JavaScript, Python, Node.js, whatever it is. So JSON is very popular because of its simplicity. So what is JSON? It's a data format, or you precisely call it as a record format. So it can hold four simple types of values: number, string, boolean, and a null, and two complex types: an object and a list. Sometimes you call it as an array. Again, inside the array or inside the object, you can have number, string, boolean, and a null. And in the array, you can have various objects. Okay, so that in a nutshell is a JSON. It's very simple. When we model real world data or the real world records, these are the only types which we deal with. The value of any field, it can be a number, it can be a string, it can be a boolean, or it can be simply nothing, which is null. Number can be anything. It's an integer or a negative number or a decimal or exponential number, but it is all wrapped or standard as a number. Okay, let's jump into action and see in a context or with examples how it works. JSON is used for simplicity, as we just spoke about it. And example is this: a record in a JSON format. The record can be an employee record or an user record. In this case, I think it's a user record. So the user name is John. The value is John. The name is the key, and value is John, which is a string. It is in double quotes. And the values what we just discussed are depending on what kind of real world value they possess. In this case, name is a string, age is number, is married a boolean. Then you have a array which is nothing but a list of things, and inside array you have this object here. Okay, like this object, it repeats. That is why it's called array. And here is another array which is the objects without key value pair. It is just the values. So there are two types of lists. One is object list, one is primitive list. Okay, so let's see how it supports in a IDE. To create a JSON, simply you create a file with extension JSON. For example, in this case, let's say employee.json. So the JSON file is created. The IDE, you see, automatically picks the value as curly braces, just a symbol, and it is ready to accept any JSON content. For example, if I open bracket, it automatically closes the bracket. Okay, now we can put name, say John. So this is, in simplicity, this is a JSON document. I'm using PyCharm as an ID, but if you open VS Code, it's the same thing. So you go to a project, any project, anywhere, and create a file with JSON. Let's say user.json. You see here, the moment even if I'm not even hit enter, it has already assigned. It already smartly knows it's a JSON document, JSON file. Okay, hit enter, so it creates. Now if I open the bracket, it closes the bracket because it has to conform to that standard. Let's say I'll put as name here as Emma. Okay, so this is a perfect JSON document, a simple JSON document where you're having just one field, which is a string field. Okay. Comments. In JSON, comments are supported or not? Comments are supported, but many documents or internet articles or things you probably come across that they say comments are not supported. But that's wrong. Comments supported. We'll see in action if your IDE or your editor giving an error that or some kind of red color highlight it's giving that comments are not supported, that means the parser the IDE or the tool is using is kind of not supporting that, or it's outdated, or the comments are not enabled. But JSON supports comment. Okay, look at this example. See here, I have commented and it's perfectly a fine JSON. See, this line is commented, this line is commented, and this line is commented. So it's perfectly fine. Okay. And so in action, for example, I'll put is 19 and I'll comment the first line, for example. Just put a double quote, it comments. Yeah. See, it's putting a red color line. Comments are not permitted, it says, but that doesn't mean anything. Comments are still, it is still a valid JSON document. If you go to another ID, for example, here there is no error, it gives a, see, there is no error here. I'm commenting it, which is perfectly fine. Okay, so comments are supported. I'll show you later in the next video parsing the JSON document with a comment and without a comment. We'll see how it works. Okay. Data types, as we said, 4 simple data types and 2 complex data types. Actually, it is just 4 data types, and other 2 complex are using the convention to fit in these data types as a block and as a array, repeating blocks. So you saw string, number, Boolean, and a null, which are simple data types here. Okay, and object array, which we saw that earlier, they are complex data types. So strings are nothing but a number of characters wrapped in a double quote. See here, double quote here. Okay, those are strings. Then we'll go to the next one. So that's why it is written 4 and 2. 4 simple time, 2 complex types. JSON path. This is very powerful feature. JSON path. For example, you have a document. Let's copy this guy. This document here. Basically, we have various fields here: name, age, and various types: string, number, boolean, and array of objects and array of primitive types. Okay, so here JSON path. So for example, you want to pick age, so you can simply do dollar. Dollar means it refers to the start of this element, then dot age. This will point to this element and it will pick the value 30. We'll see in action when we do dollar and age how it picks 30. We'll see in the next video with an example. Okay, for now just remember that this is $age JSON path. On the same way, if you want to pick, let's say, name inside this children array, how to do? Dollar dot children, and children is array. So, and in that array, it is the first element. So first element starts with 0 index and dot name. That will pick ANA from the document. And the same way, if you want to pick this number here, so we have to go to phone numbers array and pick the second element, which is the 0 and 1, the first index. Okay. Same way, dollar dot copy the phone number of 1. That is this value. Okay. So on and so forth. We'll see in action. There are various tools, online tools I'm going to show you, as well as I'll show you in the IDE how it works. But now remember, JSON paths are a very powerful feature when JSON documents are used. Okay. Multi-line. In JSON, multi-lines are not supported. What does that mean? When wanted to go to school. Now in the next line you want to type, but it was raining. So this kind of thing is not supported. So what you have to do is you have to copy this and put a /n here, then paste here. So that means Ben wanted to go to school here, and the next line starts, but it was raining. So that is how it is passed to another system, where it takes this document, parses it, and it understands that this means a new line. But in another data format like YAML, multi-lines are supported. As you type, you can simply maintain that. And next line, we'll see that in next video. Okay. So for now, understand that multi-lines, as you type, as you expect to be arranged in next line each other, is not supported, but it's supported via this special character called /n. Okay. Next one, JSON is only used for transport data. Not exactly. It is not only used to transfer data from one system to another, or in the API you request, give a JSON, that JSON goes to the server processes it, gives a response back. That is called data transfer between one system to another system. Yes, it is used for that, but not only for that. It's also used, local framework designing and your configuration reading. So both JSON and YAMLs are used, and in the many cases JSON is used because of its simplicity and the handling of spaces. We'll get into that again in the next video in a comprehensive way. Okay. Serialize, deserialize. What does this mean? This means when you have a object, let's say you have a Java object, you want to pass that object to a Java system or a non-Java system which doesn't understand Java language. Let's say you send it to Python or a JavaScript or a Node.js system. Because you cannot pass, so you serialize it. The moment you serialize that Java file, employee.java, for example, not sure really. So the employee.java will be class employee, and you will have string name, integer is, so on and so forth. Okay, because that is how you hold a record in a language, whether it's Java or Golang or Node.js or Python. That's how we hold a record. But when you want to pass it to in the network to another system, whether it's a Java or non-Java system, we do serialize that. The moment, that means you tell the parser that take this object and convert it to a format which can be understood by other system. That is called serialization. Okay. So we serialize that object to JSON. That's called serialize. Then in other system, when it reaches that JSON, you want to convert it back to Java, and you want to do certain operations there, or JavaScript or Python, you want to do certain operations there. Then we convert that JSON back to the object. That is called deserialize. Okay, that much remember in simple terms. You serialize to a file, a document that's called JSON file. From the JSON file, you deserialize, you convert it back to the desired object. Okay, there are various libraries available to deal with JSONs. Java has got Jackson, JSON, so on and so forth. Python has got JSON, where it converts a JSON to dictionary and dictionary to JSON. Golang has similar libraries. Node.js will have similar libraries, so you can explore that. So those are called libraries, and they use parsers to serialize and deserialize. Nested objects. Just now I showed you. This one is a nested object because this outer document is a object, and inside that object you have another object, you see, and inside this object you can have another object. For example, each children has a phone numbers. For example, if you have multiple phone numbers, you can have array here 1 2 3 and another number 4 5 6, so on and so forth. Okay, you can have multiple. This is 1 2 level hierarchy. You can have third level, fourth level, fifth level, depending on your requirement. You can have that many nested objects. ID support. JSON is supported in almost all the IDs because it's industry standard. We saw in VS Code, PyCharm, and IntelliJ, WebStorm, Eclipse. You think of any IDE, it's JSON is supported. And nowadays there is a AI IDE has come called Cursor. That's also, but that is based on top of VS Code. They have put some intelligence, so they are already supported. Okay, we are seeing now PyCharm and VS Code. Okay, how JSON works there. Next one, language support. We just now discussed. JavaScript is the first. The full form of JSON is JavaScript Object Notation, because initially it was heavily used in JavaScript because it's the first class citizen there. You can simply have a JSON document and assign it a variable equal to JSON document. It's perfectly fine, it holds. But you cannot do that in Java. You have to convert it to an object and assign, or you have to hold that JSON object as a single string, like that. So almost all the language supports JSON, that's why it's popular. And data type supports, which we have already seen, a string, boolean, number, null, and okay, date. Here date is not really a data type, and in the array we saw primitive array and object array we saw, and you also saw the object, which is nothing but holding this string, boolean, and number and null. Okay, date. So how the date works, let's say this is, for example, an employee, then joining date if you put, then we'll put as 01/01/2026, January 2026 it joined. It looks like a date. Okay, but if somebody types here DGAN, this is also correct. So what exactly this means? You see, this is nothing but a string, exactly like this. Only input data here is different. We are putting a string in a date format here. So that is why date is not a data type. I have listed it here just to cover that. So date is not a data type. Okay, this is not a data type. This is a string, and when the parser parses the string, in the parser you can put some kind of template that in this format, if the string comes, treat this as a date, and you can have date with timestamp also, like 2 o'clock 14.00, like that. Okay, so that's it. And array and list you have already seen. This is array of objects, this is array of primitive types. This is a list, this is also a list. Only difference is they hold different kind of data here. User JSON versus users JSON. So what is this? This is a single JSON object, and this is a array of users which holds the lists of users. So why I created this is, let's create another JSON file, employees.json, and in this we'll not start with curly bracket, we'll start with a square bracket. Okay, you see it's a perfectly valid JSON here. So the first employee is John, and that list can contain another employee named Emma. Okay, so whether a single object or multiple objects as a list, both are valid JSONs. Okay, JSON file, we covered that. Okay, what can go wrong in a JSON while we are creating a document type? So we are creating this. What might go wrong, or we are dealing with this? What might go wrong? So is married is a Boolean. Okay, now you type here false. Everything looks fine. It's a perfectly fine JSON document. This value is also fine. But what's wrong here? Because the is married is a Boolean field, but by mistake you wrapped it in a double quote. So it is not a Boolean field, it's a string field. Okay, same thing. Age is 30. If you wrap it in double quote, this is no more a number 30, it's a string 30. String 30 and number 30 are both are different here. Okay, 30.5 here. So this is not the number. When what's the difference here? A difference to whom? As a user, you see it's looking fine and there is no errors here, so it's a perfectly correct JSON. But when it goes to parser will treat this as a string and treat this as a string instead of Boolean, instead of number. This will, so that is where things will go wrong, and based on calculations it will throw exceptions. And if it is married is expecting a false there, like a false like this, but you are passing a string false, that this will be treated as true because it has a value depending on the situation and how the logic is written. So you have to be very careful while creating a document or while creating a tool which generates your JSON or deals with JSON. You have to be careful about the data types. Okay, ID features I showed you already. So this is while you type it auto completes. Okay, so there are features called lint, intelligence, and smart completion. Okay, so there are these are features, these are present in almost all the IDs nowadays. Okay, here because you let's create a long document, very long document. For example, okay, now for example age is here and name came here. It looks weird. It's not looking very good. Okay, so now you know this is a correct JSON, but it's not looking good. So there is a format. In IntelliJ we do option command L. It will nicely format this. You see, made a perfectly correct document. See, it is put a resize here and everything in the correct place. Get a document. And another ID feature is let's say you have so many children and you are not really interested to look at the children, but you are interested in dealing with the phone numbers. So this is kind of you are scrolling a lot going on. You put, let's say, 10,000 line document. Instead of that, you can click here. It will minimize this. Then you don't have to deal with children. Still holds the value, and you go ahead and analyze your document. Okay. Similarly, you can close this as well. Okay. Now you can open like this. Everything opens, and you want to close like this. Everything closes, and you want to close just one element. Close open element. Perfectly fine. Okay. Now, for example, this element you want to open is perfectly fine. You want to open everything. You can open everything. Now, for example, you here wanted to go to Hillside School. Okay. Now it's a big document. Now you don't know where that hillside is there. Now you want to put a search here. Now search hillside. You see, it only expands that element here and finds the match instead of expanding everything. So it gives you a compact view here, and you can analyze the document and take a decision on that. But there are other ID features I will cover in next videos as well when I come across. This is just a short one, just showing you how powerful nowadays the IDs are. And they are all the syntax highlight. Let's say you remove this, it will highlight the syntax. That's it, comma is missing. But if you don't use IDE, you will never get this kind of syntax highlights. So ultimately, you will send a wrong JSON document which will fail parsing. Okay, see here, it's giving a red color symbol here. Nice. Also, it gives here red color symbol, and also it gives here symbol. So if you click that, it will take you directly to that element. Okay, click. So it's fixed. So if everything is green, everything is fine, it's perfect level. So you will get a tick mark here. Correct. So in a nutshell, this is the ID feature, but there are a lot of other ID features I'm going to cover later. But just I'm taking you through so that you get the gist of JSON and start working with it. Parsing, when you have JavaScript, you can use something like JSON.parse. When you have Java, you have the object mapper dot read value, and to this is called deserialize. And to serialize it, there is another method called write value as string here. So you pass a Java object and it will give a JSON document. Similarly, Python, you have JSON loads, and you pass a string, it loads and brings it to the Python program, so on and so forth. Spaces. This is very important thing in JSON, but there is a advantage here because the space is ignored, okay, by parsers. So, for example, what does it mean? Like if you put a lot of space here, a lot of space here, any random spaces here, random spaces here, here. As long as you are not touching the keys and the values inside that, you are not manipulating anything. The space here, or there is no space here, it is still a perfect. You see, there's a tick mark. This is a perfect JSON document. Only thing is, it is not nicely arranged. So the parser almost all the parsers, they are smart enough to parse the string and value, sorry, the key and the value. Okay, let's make it compact just for your understanding. Okay, remove this and make it a compact element. Now if you format it, we are back to a simple JSON document. Okay, let's remove this element just for simplicity. Okay, now because for readability we have arranged with multiple spaces, but when it gets loaded into language without this n slash n, where from here to here there is a new line introduced, that is also still a perfect document. So if I join it, see, I made it a single line here. It is still a perfect JSON document. See, there's a tick mark. Now back to multi-line. Okay. Questions. So I'll leave you with these questions. How do you represent data with 18 versus 18 plus? Leave a comment below and let me know, one, if you have understood well the JSON key and value, how to represent it and how to represent 18 plus, and how to represent true and capital true, and how to represent null versus none. Okay, now I have created also a comprehensive quiz which is industry standard. If you are attending some interviews, or if you think you are already expert or you have learned enough of JSON, go and attend this quiz. This has got only 9 to 10 questions and you'll get answer sheet at the end of the quiz as well. Okay, that's it. Don't forget to like and subscribe the video. Thank you very much for watching.